All right, this is my final remote class that I'm putting out for y'all. Let me restate that. As far as I know, this is the final one that we're going to be putting out. So this will conclude the training that we're doing via remote access on this YouTube channel. So figured I'd close it out on the history of 1st Marine Division. This isn't super in depth. This is kind of some things that we all kind of talk about, but it's not like in your um, FMF book or anything like that. So it's just some heritage that you guys should be aware of. His 1st Marine Division headquarters here in Camp Pendleton. It's a historical building down on the main side. It's called the White House. And we're going to discuss some things like the old breed, why we're called the old breed. It's because we're the oldest unit in the Marine Corps that's actually continued to current day. All right. So we were once called the Advanced Base Brigade, and we were activated on the 23rd of December 1913 in Philadelphia. And this is where a lot of that history comes from with those early wars and the Banana Wars. And it wasn't until February 1st, 1941, on the USS Texas, that we actually were officially deemed 1st Marine Division, when we are the oldest and most decorated unit within the Marine Corps. Um, After we became the 1st Marine Division, we got sent to the Pacific Theater of War, and the first major battle that 1st Marine Division had to tackle was actually the campaign of Guadalcanal in 1942. It lasted 6 months for this to actually completely finish, and it was the first combat operation of the newly designated unit. There was close to over 3,000 casualties. Um, that's a huge major part of 1st Marine Division's lore as a newly formed unit, and it's becoming the backbone essentially for what we are today. The reason being is because it's a big part of our 1st Marine Division insignia. The battle blaze is what it was originally called, that patch that they sewn on to the uniform on the shoulder there. Um, so the history of the Blue Diamond is originally designed for wear for members who served or were attached to a division during the Pacific Campaign in World War II, and to recognize the sacrifices and victory they made in battle at the Battle of Guadalcanal. The national colors are represented on that blue diamond, the red, white, and blue. And on the big one, Guadalcanal is inscribed on it to commemorate the battle itself, so they never forget. And then around it, on the blue background, there's the arrangement of the Southern Cross constellation surrounding it, and it signifies the skyline where the fighting took place under. So here's a snapshot of what that actually looks like in real life. Um, Maybe we'll get to see that unemployment, maybe not, who knows. So post Guadalcanal, it was the rebuild up in Australia, and you're probably wondering why we're going to talk about this one right now. Well, the reason being is in that picture right there, you see a swag man, right? Um, some of you may already know this, some of you may not, but Waltzing Matilda, the 1st Marine Division unofficial song, is essentially was adopted during this recovery phase. It was a 9 month recovery phase to recoup from all those casualties, refit, prepare, train to expand the Pacific campaign against the Japanese while being temporarily located in Melbourne, Australia. The country opened to everybody with open arms, and there was a lot of cohesion between the two countries and service members and civilians. And on George Washington's birthday, February 22nd, 1943, the 1st Marine Division Band actually did a parade, and they played Waltzing Matilda, which is a kind of a huge folklore song in Australia, which the crowd loved it. It was kind of one of those things, and it also became the send-off song when Division left Melbourne. Um, the Swag Man is kind of what that song is about, and it's basically about a guy who's um, kind of a vagabond, and he just lives off the land, and he steals somebody's sheep. Long story short, and then the police come looking for him. And the last verse is, it's kind of no guess as to why 1st Marine Division probably proudly sings this based off that last verse, and it's up jumped the swag man, sprang into the billabong. You'll never catch me alive, he said, and his ghost can be heard as you pass that billabong. You'll come a waltzing Matilda with me. Uh, Waltzing Matilda, based off of their kind of heritage in Australian vernacular, is one. It's a swagman song that he used to travel to, and a swagman's belongings were swag, it was his belongings wrapped up in a blanket or cloth on his back, just like you saw in that first picture. And the National Library in Australia states that actually Matilda is an old name, female name, mean battle battle maid, a mighty battle maid. And the reason that correlates to the swagman is because the use of Matilda in this is a slang term to mean the de facto wife slash companion of the wanderer. He walked around with his swag, his Matilda, as he affectionately called it, because that's what he lived off of in the land, similar to what the Marines lived off of when they were, going through the Pacific. They just had what was on their back, and that was it. And it was regarded as something that the swag mag needed to live off of, and they were just kind of hardy people who just kind of lived off the land. And the Marines, they eat that stuff up anywhere they get. All right, so in conclusion for this training, we're going to close out with James Mad Dog Mattis's um, last verse in his letter to the Marines and sailors before they invaded Iraq. And for the mission's sake, our country's sake, and the sake of the men who carried the division's colors in past battles, who fought for life and never lost their nerve, carry out your mission and keep your honor clean. Demonstrate to the world there is no better friend, no worse enemy than a U.S. Marine. So that's also the unofficial motto of First Marine Division: no better friend, no worse enemy. So these are all things that you take into a part of your heritage that hopefully you understand where a little bit of that comes from. The motto is actually from it's a longer Latin translation that the legionnaires used to use, but I challenge you to go look that up. It's actually quite interesting to look into that. So there's a reason why Mad Dog was called that warrior poet, because he knows all sorts of stuff like that. So now you know a part of the family that you proudly serve when you ever have that blue diamond and that you're repping on some swag that you bought at the store, from the association, or even from a here at 2-4. So just be mindful of the legacy that you carry on, and you're going to be a part of this legacy whether you realize it or not in some fame. So be aware of that, and it's been awesome. Look forward to seeing you guys here shortly.